Dreamers, ancestors are not just the names in the family tree, but they are the roots that connect us all to our heritage and our existence. In honoring our ancestors, we nourish the tree of our existence, and the wisdom becomes our guiding principles, our guiding branches that reach into our lives. In this episode of I want to talk about the power of the ancestors through ancestral veneration. I grew up in a tradition that practiced acknowledging and honoring the ancestors. And it was something that I always thought was normal for everyone. But it wasn't until I began to learn more about the world, I saw that there were differences in how people acknowledge and honor their ancestors. So for me, this has been part of the fabric of my identity and my upbringing. I've had an ancestral shrine for as long as I can remember. And on that ancestral shrine, an altar containing items such as cherished items from the past that my ancestors enjoyed, like my grandmother's reading glasses or my grandfather's wallet, or even some of their favorite snacks or things that they love to do. So I have like a little tractor on my ancestor shrine because my grandfather was a farmer. And I have things like peanuts and Coca-Cola because my grandmother loved to put peanuts inside of her Coca-Cola. But why honor the ancestors? What do you get out of acknowledging and honoring our ancestors as if though their energy is omnipresent, which it is? I think for me, honoring the ancestors gives us the opportunity to honor the past, honor their journey, and honor their legacy, and develop a deep understanding. Develop a deep understanding of the importance of acknowledging and honing and honoring the contributions that they've made to society. I think it's also a cultural and spiritual tradition. In many African traditional spiritualities and other faiths around the world, there's this ongoing acknowledgement of the ancestors and how their energy is omnipresent. So I encourage you to explore the various ways in which you can honor your ancestors, whether it's through daily practice, whether that's through a monthly or yearly event that you produce with your loved ones. But honoring the ancestors gives us that reminder that their energy is omnipresent, that their energy is in another dimension. The more that I honor my ancestors, the more I start to feel their energy. And so sometimes I will smell the scent that reminds me of the perfume that my grandmother wore. Or with my grandfather, he used to use this really, really stank shaving cream. And every now and then I'll catch a whiff of that smell and it reminds me of him. And in my tradition, we feel like that means that that person's energy is around you from the other side and they're trying to send you a message. Also, I think about my spiritual connection. As I have been growing and deepening my relationship with my spirituality, with the energies of the universe, part of that energy is understanding that your ancestors on the other side want to be acknowledged. They want to be called on. Ways that I worship them or honor their energy is by cooking a meal. When I cook for myself, I will always set aside a small plate and put it by my altar and call my ancestors' name and let them know that this is an offering to them on the other side. And that is something that has kept me grounded in their energy of the past. Another thing that I like to do is when I'm saying my prayers, I like to include my ancestors' names in my prayer as a way, again, to feel more connected to their energy. Anytime I do any type of ceremony or offering, I always acknowledge my ancestors. So if you are at a place and you're wondering, where do I start with acknowledging my ancestors? Well, I think number one is the awareness that their energy is omnipresent and that it's always around us. I think number two is saying their names in the same way that we acknowledge and say people who are on this side of earth names and spaces to plug their energy into spaces. You can also say your ancestors' name in these spaces to plug their energy. Thirdly, if you are into altars or shrines, you can set up an altar. I always tell people to put a fresh glass of water, a small tea light candle, and some flowers to get started. And listen to your spirit, and it will guide you on how to grow your altar. There are times when I'm out at I get this thought in my mind about, oh, you should get this item and put it on your altar. And it only strengthens your connection with the other side. That idea of making space in your home is sacred. The idea of creating energetic community for your ancestors' energy to be consecrated is one of the most beautiful things you can do to acknowledge and celebrate your ancestors. To close out today, I want to give you some dream work. I want you to, number one, find out who your ancestors are. Like, learn about them, learn about what they liked, what they didn't like, what were they like here on earth, what were some of the things that you think you have taken from them in terms of your genetic makeup and how you perceive life. Start doing your research on your ancestors. Number two, you can set up an altar. Number three, giving yourself grace to feel. Don't force it. Take your time with it. And the more you talk to them, the more you acknowledge them, the more you say their names, the stronger you're going to feel that connection with the other side. Peace, love, and liberation. It's episode 1, Ancestor Veneration. It's your boy Obayoko signing out.